Now, Porst, a German retailer, much like Review, didn't actually make any lenses of their own. They merely rebranded and resold optics by other manufacturers. The Porst we're talking about here looks identical to an Elicar 35mm f2.8, and I expect it to be optically identical as well. So take that for what it's worth. Elicar lenses, as well as Porst and Revunons, were supposedly made by the likes of Kino, Komine, Tapak, and possibly others. There is really very little information on the internet about the Porst I'm talking about here, and much of the information in this video is actually about other rebrands like the aforementioned Elicar and possibly even Vivitar. I wasn't able to find anything certain about the optical construction of this lens, but there is information to suggest a 6-element optical design. This lens comes in an M42 mount, which makes it very easily adaptable to pretty much any mirrorless camera on the planet, and not only mirrorless. M42 adapters are very cheap and readily available pretty much everywhere. It has 6 rounded aperture blades, an aperture going from wide open at f2.8 all the way closed down to f22, a minimum focusing distance of just under half a meter, that's like 50 centimeters, and it weighs 210 grams. That's roughly several tomatoes. My copy, well, it's not really my copy because it's my girlfriend's and I just borrowed it for the sake of this video. Well, this copy is in really excellent condition with very minimal dust. Considering its age, it's quite impressive. No balsam separation, no fungus at all, so even aesthetically and mechanically it's in really great working condition. Now, as far as optical performance goes, wide open at f2.8, this lens is kind of soft and it vignettes a lot. It also has this kind of almost like a glowy look, but to be frank, I don't dislike it. Quite the contrary, to be honest. I enjoy it. I think it makes for really interesting and pleasant images. Pretty much all the images you're going to see in this video are shot wide open at f2.8, and this is done entirely on purpose because I'm of the opinion that this is how you are supposed to test a lens for sharpness. What I mean by that is that, if we're being honest, pretty much any lens will be sharp at f8, but not any lens will be sharp wide open. So that's when it counts. If a lens is sharp wide open, you can rest assured it will be sharp at f8. As far as sharpness is concerned, stopping down this lens does wonders for it. By f5.6, the sharpness improves dramatically, and by f8, this lens really comes into its own. The vignetting is gone, and so is the glow I mentioned before, for better or for worse. The Porst Weitwinkel AUTO-F 35mm f2.8 renders nicely saturated, pleasant colors, natural but slightly on the warmer side of the spectrum. Colors and tones are vivid and energetic, but really not over the top. They're sufficiently saturated for them to be nice and pleasant, but nothing is exaggerated. This lens is really kind of gentle in how it renders colors. The lens produces soft, gentle, mild and subdued tones. It's really great for any sort of black and white work, with decently contrasty tones and a certain silvery, shiny quality to it. I really love it for black and white. I have to emphasize that. Now, there are bound to be some negatives, and one of the biggest ones is possibly due to the fact that this lens, I suspect, is single-coated at best. As mentioned before, this lens flares a lot, and it flares very easily. it doesn't even need to be struck by a lot of light. Any tiny amount of light that hits it at the wrong angle will cause it to flare, and it will cause it to flare a lot. It will lose contrast, it will produce hazy, foggy images with some ghosting, with loss of sharpness even. So I would highly suggest you use it with a lens hood, or even completely avoid stray light hitting its front element. Wide open, there's also a bit of barrel distortion visible, but that is easily fixable in post. And to end this on a positive note, I do have to say that at 35 millimeters, this lens produces really nice depth of field blur, really pleasant bokeh. I think I've even seen some swirl, but the bokeh and the depth of field blur it produces is decently soft, it's nicely blurred. Now, as mentioned before, this lens is mechanically in great shape. It's solidly built, with the exception of the rubber surrounding the focusing ring. It's made entirely out of metal and glass. It's really tightly built. It feels like a solid piece of engineering. There is no looseness, there is no shake, there's no rattle. The focusing ring turns a generous 280 degrees with just enough dampening, allowing for precise focusing. The focusing ring, well, rather, the aperture ring has nice, solid, confident clicks with full stops between f2.8 and f4, and then again from f11 to f16, and half stops from f4 to f11. Before I wrap things up and offer you my conclusion, I want to just mention this lens can be had for really little money. I bought it as a present for my girlfriend, together with a working Porst SLR and 50mm f1.7 for the grand total of, I'm not going to actually tell you, because my girlfriend will probably be watching this video and I don't want her to know. So, do I recommend it? It really depends. The answer is really not that straightforward. Do you have any other 35mm? Then probably I won't be able to recommend it. Do you not? Well, then it depends again. How much money are you willing to invest in a 35mm? Because for just a little more, there are a lot of better options. But if you find it for 30, or let's say even 40 bucks, I think you will not be disappointed. It's a perfectly usable, it's a perfectly decent lens, but just don't expect it to be special, because special it is not. That said, this has been Radu. Thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed it. Please smash that like button. Subscribe, support my work by following the Buy Me a Coffee link, and maybe make a small donation. If not, just pass this video around. I do also very much enjoy getting your comments, so chime in down below, join the conversation, and until next time, be well, everybody.